Good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. Happy Monday after Christmas. It's still Christmas here in Virginia. Of course, the professor is a wonderful Christmas enthusiast. So we're still keeping up some of our Christmas decorations and remaining in the Christmas spirit for a little bit. Actually, you can see behind me, I got the Christmas card from my beloved prophet. And that box on the bureau was actually a box given to me like 8 Christmases ago from a manager's wife, and it's so pretty. So I decided to keep the box. I was like, oh, that's kind of a Christmas decoration there. So hopefully you guys are doing well and had a good Christmas and all of that. I would love any input on audio since I was kind of slow in setting up today. So I thought I was going to be a few minutes late. Yeah, if you guys could say, oh, Muhammad's here. Cool. If you guys could say, oh, yes, of course. The wonderful, reliable professor says you look and sound loud and clear. Oh, look beautiful and sound loud and clear. Good. Good. So I'll just go ahead and welcome the chat. And it'll be a pretty low-key stream. I didn't really prepare for this stream. I just want to talk about my thoughts on the Star Wars new game Eclipse, really in particular the trailer music, because it's pretty interesting. It's pretty unusual, so I wanted to talk about that. So it might be a short stream depending on what you guys think, but let's go ahead and say hi to everyone. So first is Go Team Ghost Planet Go. Welcome. I hope you guys both are doing well. Ace is here. Oh, actually no, he's not able to watch live, but looking forward to listening to it tomorrow. Well, welcome to the replay. Glad to have you. Let's see. Digifex Electronics, when a 98-pound anemic girl is pummeling line. Maybe I shouldn't say this. Even in a fantasy world, it seems ridiculous. Oh, is that to do with Star Wars? Are we talking about Star Wars there? Yeah. Are you talking about the Star Wars game? Yeah. Anyway, I don't know who has anemia, but we'll be polite. We'll be polite to people with that condition. Anyway, yeah, I'm a little tired today. I think I'm just coming off the Christmas week, so we'll see. We'll see how the stream goes. We've got Dr. Y. I have to 100% agree with you. It sounds like Hans Zimmer's Dune soundtrack. Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, we'll talk about it all, but it's interesting. I will say this. It's not bad music, but it ain't Star Wars. Big Al Presents says, have a great show, Sound Engraver. And yes, folks, she is just as awesome in person. So the Prophet and I had the pleasure last Tuesday to go up to see Al and his mom, and it was just a really wonderful, sweet visit. I just love it. Yeah, at first I thought because I'm used to hearing Al's voice with an avatar, and I was like, what's this gonna be like, But the mannerisms are the same. Like 2 to 3 minutes in, I'm like, yeah, that's Al. No, actually, I knew that was Al. So I just love the rapport and the brotherly chemistry between Al and the Prof. Of course, we see it on the stream, but it's the same way in person. And it was really wonderful. And Al, your mom is so sweet. She's so sweet. So it was really, really wonderful to meet you guys. And I hope we have a visit in the near future as well. And Brian Gilmartin is in here, so a music stream. This gotta be good. Actually, let's just talk about this real quick before getting into the topic. But getting into the new year, and I'll probably talk about this on a separate video or a separate point of the stream. But getting into the new year, I have really contemplated on the direction of this channel as far as streaming is concerned, and really actually as far as the channel is concerned with any kind of video, whether it's a live stream or a commentary video pre-recorded or something like that. And on the whole, Sound Engraver into this next year is going to be predominantly music based. Now you might be thinking, well, that's been the case, right? That's been your shtick. That's been your theme for my desk just hit me. That's been your theme since you started, right? Talking about music and composing and soundtracks and all of that. It's been a lot of that, especially in light of posting weekly videos on SuperCollider or Logic Pro or original soundtracks or original music, I should say. And that's been true. It's been predominantly music, but the last year I had a good time. I had a really good time talking about art in general, and I'm still open to talking about that. But I've pretty much said what I've wanted to say regarding art. So if there's anyone who comes upon my track on Spotify or my website or, maybe Twitter, and they're like, "Oh, what is she about?" And if you want to know what I think about art, I've got a lot of commentary. I've got a lot of commentary about art. And I would say the thing I'm talking about tonight is art related as much as it is music related and culture related, of course. And that's always going to be a primary topic. I mean to say music in the way of culture and popular culture. But I would say in general, I might not go so cerebral in the artistic philosophies as I thought I was going to. One is I think I've said all I wanted to say, unless something new comes up. But I've just got hours of content if anyone's curious. I've also noticed that I've warded off people who might have otherwise listened to my music. That's not the main reason. I would still keep talking about what is valuable to me and what is important to me, even if it has me lose subscribers or listeners or whatever the case is. But all that to say is I'm going into the new year with this idea that it will be pretty much music centric, more than it's been. Now, this might be a lot more work and a lot more effort for me because when I talk about music, I really do want to prepare. And sometimes it's hard to come up with topics that might be all encompassing and all around engaging with different kinds of people. But I'm sure I'll come up with something every week. SuperCollider is always going to be there. Logic Pro is always going to be there. My original music's always going to be there. But I'm going to go more in depth this next year with things like soundtracks, talking about things like trailer music. I might even do a comparison. For instance, something like this, just to give you a tease, is maybe a weekly stream or weekly video would be about the comparison of Star Wars Eclipse, the trailer, and Sonic 2, the trailer. Now, I know Sonic 2 is a film and Star Wars Eclipse is a game, but it's a different approach. It is a different approach to trailer music, and I think it's worth noting. So it really will be music themed. It will be music centric, which I've been doing predominantly, but I kind of just geek out on music. Actually, I was having a lot of fun recording the music, the theme I wrote for Batman. So I just geek out about that stuff, and I hope you guys will stick around, of course, and keep talking about music. And so without further ado, we'll go ahead and talk about music. I noticed this chair is really comfortable. It's actually the Prost chair. But when I lean against it on the back, it causes like a kind of a rubbing noise as if there's like a cable I'm pulling at. So I'll just kind of sit up straight. But anyway, that is what I wanted to say to you guys. Mohammed, long time no see. Wonderful to see you. I'm so glad you're back on the streams. They're always here every Monday nights. Oh, is the picture fuzzy? Can you guys confirm? Oh, you guys are confirming. I do have low Wi-Fi. I mean, I had the Ethernet. So let's see. Yeah, if someone can confirm that I'm fuzzy or broken, just let me know, because that is distracting. I might just put it for my, put up my profile pic. So let me scroll down just a little bit. It's Zootopia. It's Wolftan. It's Mohammed. It's Final Fantasy 12. All right. Everything good, guys? Just if you guys can comment, because it looks clear to me. It looks completely clear to me. And wonderful, wonderful picture there, Dr. Y. It's just always great to see that. Alrighty. I'll keep the image up until I see more confirmation that it's a little, let's see. It says my connection is unstable. If you're on Wi-Fi, try plugging it into your router, move closer to it. But yeah, like I'm on Ethernet right now, so we'll see. I actually might know what's going on. So please confirm. It is a fuzzy pic. Okay, we'll do the camera right now. Is the camera better? Not so fuzzy. Oh yeah, I haven't done this with my profile pic. You know, kind of like a fan man. Oh, I should. If I had known, I would have found. Let's see if I can find my, because I am talking about Star Wars. Let's see if I can find my image here. Let's see. Edit avatar. There we go. Yeah. There. Because we are talking about Star Wars. So I guess you'll have to just hear my voice and not see my face. This is very disorienting to me, but at the same time, I can pretend to be Fan Man without the sound effects. So anyway, that's okay. This might go on for a couple of weeks and then we'll see. But let's continue reading. Let's go ahead and continue reading the chat for a little bit, and then we'll just talk about the problems, or the main problem, the major problem of the music for the Star Wars Eclipse trailer. Let's see. You are not late to the stream, Final Fantasy fan. And let's also go ahead and see. Oh yeah, let's bring up Zootopia as well. And Wolf 10 as well. And let's see what Muhammad has to say. What's your favorite piece of the trailer music or music that's been used for trailers? Mine is every Reborn for Interstellar and Dystopia for Doctor Strange. I'd have to think about that. I would have to think about that as a question, but thanks for asking. The thing is, I don't really... There are a couple of things. I don't watch a lot of upcoming movies. So I'm actually... I think about the movie scores more than the trailer itself. And I think in the last 7 or 8 years, I think trailer music has overall become incredibly generic. And that includes what I've heard with game trailers. So I'd actually have to go back. Like, okay, what did the Lord of the Rings trailer sound like? Of course, it'd be different. But the trailers, I would say, just all around in the last, I would give it between 5 and 8 years, have been really generic in general. But if you guys have had great trailer music experiences, you guys can put that in the chat. Yeah, Dr. Y, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I know. I'm so disoriented. But that's okay. We'll make do, and then maybe every once in a while. In fact, let me just pop it up right now. Let's see. Does that look better? Just let me know. It's kind of a stuttering stream today, but that's okay. But at least I've got the Star Wars themed hat. So yeah, it looks like I have just in general a very low unstable signal, and that's been pretty common. So I thought the Ethernet cable would be fine, but we'll have to make do. So I'm gonna go back to the image unless it was much better than before. It's still fuzzy. Okay, we'll do a Sound Engraver Star Wars today, but let's go ahead and talk about the trailer music. So first of all, have you guys listened to the music, or have you seen the trailer in general? I would say it's short. It's between 2 and 2.5 minutes. But I would also I would say in general, it looks great. It's a fully cinematic trailer for the game music, meaning there's no game, there's no or gameplay, I should say. There's no seeing what the game actually looks like as a player or as like a multiplayer game. So it's all cinematic. Now, the look of it, besides the strange Plagueis alien race that does the like taiko drumming, kind of looks like that. Just looks so strange. It just looks so tribal, but not Star Wars kind of tribal. It's just really weird. Besides that, it does look like Star Wars. Visually, it looks like Star Wars. You got the same Star Wars sound effects. So you got your sound design that is pretty much a unique sound trademark of Star Wars. But at the same time, you really, 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 really have to have the music to make it actually not just look like Star Wars, but feel like Star Wars. Now, I would say that the go-to for composers, if someone were to be hired to compose for a Star Wars film or a television series or a game, it doesn't matter the medium, and it really doesn't matter what kind of media it is, what kind of entertainment it is. If a composer were hired just to do the trailer music for Star Wars, they would have to do a couple of major things. The first is if Lucasfilms gives them license to doing it, they can work creatively and just drop John Williams' score. Actually, I think John Williams is Warner Brothers. So I don't actually know who has license besides John Williams himself, if he has it in the state or something like that. Whoever has rights to his scores, I'm almost positive it's Warner Brothers. It sounds strange, but I feel like they have their hand on every music copyright, but it's probably Lucasfilm or Disney or something like that. Well, anyway, whoever has license to that score, would give that license to that composer so the composer can edit and rearrange to their liking. Maybe it is just a montage of the themes and the tracks that we all know and love quite well. However, if you want to deviate a little bit from that, this is what I would recommend. It doesn't have to be strictly John Williams, but it's got to be a kind of assimilation or simulation, an aural simulation of John Williams. Now, what does that look like? Well, actually can take form in a couple of ways. The first way is actually probably the best approach that I would do as a composer is to take the main themes of John Williams and use the compositional approach that is called theme and variation. And theme and variation is kind of what it sounds like to people who might not know music composition or music in general. Theme and variation is simply taking the theme, taking the music theme, and creating a variation of it. So it could be a different rhythmic variation of it. Maybe the theme, maybe a John Williams theme could have more of kind of a pulsing that would reflect something like a pirate song or something like a Celtic dance or something like that that has that simple to compound meter relationship. Maybe is it in a big three, or maybe it's in asymmetrical rhythm. Maybe it's with cool metric modulation. Maybe it's the theme not in the treble clef anymore, not with trumpets anymore, but maybe it's in a very in a low range with instruments of a low range. Maybe it's completely different structure of the same theme, like what Bach did with the fugue and all of that. So you don't have to be completely strict in incorporating John Williams music, like verbatim. It doesn't have to be John Williams verbatim, note per note, and it's got to be exactly John Williams. But what I would say is take his themes and then rearrange it in your own way with, a variation of that theme, whatever kind of style that is, whatever kind of meter that would be in. And in addition to that, it would also be something like instrumentation. So maybe it's not strictly the orchestra. Maybe it's the Star Wars theme with something like a string ensemble with low percussion or something. Or maybe it's an electronic version of John Williams' music with the composer's own rearranging and own arrangement. Maybe it's, as far as the instrumentation is concerned, maybe it's John Williams music, but instead of the orchestra, it's with world instruments. It's with percussion of Morocco or Ghana or Ethiopia or something like that, and then you would use like the treble instruments from Java or Tibetan. Maybe not Tibetan. That'd be, well, yeah. I just said it because it's on the stream. I'm saying it on the fly. Yeah, so something out of the Thailand or East Asia or India. So you would use different instruments of the world for that kind of instrumentation, especially if you want to depict a tribal alien race. I mean, that would be kind of cool, but it cannot lose that integral form, that skeletal, and really that foundation that is John Williams. You can't deviate from it completely. So as a recap, I wouldn't completely be strict and say, no, it's got to be all of John Williams' music and all of his themes. And it has to be exactly as John Williams wrote it. I would say that's preferable to what I've been listening to. But if it's not that, it's a very small deviation from John Williams, meaning you're taking John Williams's music as the structure or the skeleton, and then rearranging it in your own meter or instrumentation as a composer, maybe even your own style as a composer, maybe even your own style if you were an electronic music composer. But it can't be so far removed from John Williams, even if it's not strictly John Williams. And this is where whoever's in charge, I forgot what developer is doing. I forgot what developer is doing this game. If you guys want to confirm in the chat, it's not EA actually. I heard it was someone else, and so people are hopeful that this would be a good game because it's not EA. So anyway, I would say what they're doing incorrectly in giving us this trailer is making it so far removed as far as music. It's got the visuals, it's got the sound effects, but there's something really disorienting seeing these ships battle each other in space, and the music does not sound like Star Wars. So that's my objective, is that, or my point rather, it doesn't sound like Star Wars. It sounds great. It sounds really cool. But while it sounds great and it sounds cool, it can run the risk of sounding very generic. And of course, it does not sound like Star Wars at all. Now, I want to talk about this more in depth, but I kind of want to hear your guys' take. So I'm going to scroll the chat. I'll put up chat and all that. I don't know where I stopped. Oh, interesting. So Brian touches on this. I talked about this in Wolf10's stream. I really hate modern movie sound design in general, especially that constant that shows up in every action movie trailer. It's not even action movies. It's games now. So what it is. Now I don't have the sound library to produce this sound, and that's probably for the better. But what that is just a real low end, beefed up, amped up, low end, reverberant frequency with a kind of LFO, a low frequency oscillation. To it might be something like probably it's like something like a sawtooth wave that adds those odd partials to have that kind of grainy sound, which I like the sound, but the implementation of this sound is everywhere. So I've seen it in Star Wars. I've seen it in Blade Runner. Well, I feel like Blade Runner, that's fine. I've seen it. Oh, where else have I seen it? But it's everywhere. It's definitely with Hans Zimmer. Like he does it everywhere. So I would say, yeah, and that's actually that's a complaint among composers, Brian. That kind of washed up LFO reverberant low end sound. That's a complaint among composers saying this is such a cliche, such a cliche. Now I didn't hear it with this trailer, so that's good. Maybe Maybe they thought that would be too much. It's like, oh no, this sounds like Inception or something. We still want it to we still want it to sound like Star Wars, sort of. Yeah, taiko drums. Yeah, so Wolfton, I feel like it looks cool, but without any cultural context in Star Wars, I feel the same. I feel like it was a weird choice. Dr. Wise says the drummers were the only thing that didn't look like Star Wars. Now people were saying, well, like, oh, that looks like the alien race from of whoever Plagueis was. Now I don't know anything about Plagueis other than that he was Palpatine's master or Darth Sidious's master. But it looked okay. So I got the impression, I could be wrong about this, but it just, I'm saying this carefully, from what I've seen of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm not talking about the live action either. I'm talking about just kind of that look. I was like, I feel like it would belong there. Now, I don't know anything about The Last Airbender as far as the culture is concerned, but well, okay, that drumming is distinctly East Asian. I mean, it just is. And it could be in other parts of the world, but it's definitely depicted, not depicted. It's definitely performed in places like Japan. So I agree with you, Wolf 10. It looked really odd. It kind of, in a way, in a strange way, it kind of looked a little bit like what we would see in kind of the world building of Guardians of the Galaxy and places like Marvel. It just looked so outside Star Wars. However, I would think it would be more believable and more in sync with Star Wars and the look of Star Wars if the music had been different. But they chose those drums, and I actually think that put people off in general. I've seen floating around just a lot of complaints of like, what was that? What was that? Muhammad says, I like the vibe, but the music was a bit odd. I didn't mind the music, like it was cool, but I think overall since The Mandalorian, the music has been a bit off. That's a really good point, Muhammad. So I wanted to talk about that as well. Before this stream, I decided to look at IMDb and the list of Star Wars games. And guys, quite honestly, I didn't even know there were that many Star Wars games out there. Like video games alone, and I'm not really going to include anything before 2000, really before the Knights of the Old Republic. But all in all, there are like over 70 video games. But with Knights of the Old Republic and on, I think I'm going to, like the most popular, I think I'm going to safely gauge it to 20. And I tell you what, guys, I could be missing something, but the music, even with the I think it was Jedi Fallen Order. What was the recent game? It wasn't Fallen Order, I don't think. I think there was one right before this Eclipse game, and I can't remember. So if you guys want to confirm in the chat as well, that'd be great. But yeah, what was I gonna say? This is the first time, guys, unless I'm missing something, because I was listening to a lot of different trailer music from really actually since, yeah, I think since right before the Knights of the Old Republic. Coder. Is that how you say it, guys? Really before that game, maybe a couple games before that, but I was listening to all the trailer music of all the very, very popular games. And I have to say that this music is the first time it's nothing remotely Star Wars. Nothing remotely Star Wars. That's very strange to say. There are games listed where their trailer music, between the launch, where they would have to smack down, not smack down, they would have to just slap John Williams music up because it's a launch game. It's a launch trailer. It's really rudimentary. It's not quite there. It's the rough draft. So they just want to give you a little bit of the sketch work of the gameplay. So yeah, obviously they're gonna just put on Williams. But then when the release of the second trailer, like by the official trailer, by the second official trailer of the game is released, I still hear things that sound like Star Wars, variations of John Williams' theme, different instrumentation, like with electronic music, which I think is fine as long as you don't go too far away from John Williams' themes. But some is very much like the original trilogy music and the prequel trilogy. Yeah, if you want to include the sequels, yeah, you'll have to include it. But anything that's very, very close to the originals and the prequels, and yeah, even the sequels, they stick very, very, very close to the Star Wars original music by John Williams. Now, sometimes it's not strictly Williams' score, but it sounds like Williams. It's the great use of color and tone and thematic ideas and it's the color. We all know whether you're really into music as a professional or you just like music, we all are keenly aware of what Star Wars is supposed to sound like. So all the games, the good games, the bad games, all the games leading up to this one point would sound I would get, if I can give a rough estimate, it sounds between 60 and 100% Star Wars. The stuff we hear of the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. This game, nothing. Like nothing even remotely sounding like Star Wars. In fact, I can't remember if I passed this comment. It was Dr. Y, I think. Who said it? Someone said something about it sounding like Dune, Zimmer's Dune. I'm trying to look for that comment, but I think I might have passed it. Yeah. But anyway, I think it was Dr. Y, but correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, it sounds like, I think that was Brian Gilmartin. It sounds like Dune. It sounds like Hans Zimmer's Dune. The color and the atmosphere and the soundscapes sound really cool. Sounds really, really cool. I like that sound a lot. But just because it's cool doesn't mean it's right. And you can apply that to any kind of artistic thing. But just because it sounds really nice and really engaging doesn't mean it's right. And it's especially important for something like Star Wars. For instance, Star Trek has a very specific sound to Star Trek. All of our favorite franchises have a very distinct sound. Super Mario Brothers and all of the Mario franchise. Every single Mario game that has been out there has been, whether a good game or a bad game, has always adhered to that iconic Mario sound from the original game. So whatever franchises, you have to maintain the integrity of how that sounds. It's literally a sonic trademark. If you deviate from that and completely remove yourself from that, you don't have it. You can have the Star Wars visuals, but it doesn't sound the same. People feel a little off by it. They might think it's Star Wars, like, oh, this looks so cool. This is so well done. Visually, yeah, maybe. But it's like, this could be for, Journey to Arrakis, man. that's my whole point. Let me scroll through these comments and see some other stuff. I also wanted to bring this point that Muhammad brought up, that you think it's cool, which, yeah, it does sound cool. It's great. But you overall think that since The Mandalorian, the music has been a bit off. I think this is I honestly, guys, I can't tell if it's intentional or they don't know what they're doing. I think it's intentional, though. You're talking about Mandalorian. I'm going to say I did a video about this about 2 years ago. It would be 2 years this April. Yeah, 2 years this spring. I did a stream. I did a live stream about this, and I've also done a fixed commentary about this. But I think if not The Mandalorian, and I'd have to hear the trailer music for that. Oh, forgot to listen to the TV series trailers, like the Book of Boba Fett. I meant to do that. If I have the opportunity, I'll try to do that on the fly here. But okay, so Muhammad is saying since The Mandalorian. That's very interesting. If not, then, well, it's kind of the same time, now that I think about it. Definitely Clone Wars Season 7. I mean, and guys, you know me. I'm going to be even more specific. It was the Siege of Mandalore. I know. I've done a whole playlist on the problems of that arc, but the writing problems rather. But I actually also have problems with the music. You know, for all we can gripe about the sequel trilogy, and there were a lot of shortcomings musically speaking, and I hate to say that because it was Sir John Williams himself who composed it, but there were a lot of musical shortcomings in the sequel trilogy too, but not like it was with the Clone Wars season 7. With particularly that last atrocious arc, the Siege of Mandalore. What was that? Was that 2019? I can't remember. I think it was 2019. Maybe it was earlier. I can't keep track of the years now. But I will say that is the timestamp I'm going to say where I think my gut is telling me they're being very intentional with what they're doing. And what is it they're doing? Well, I think they are intentionally moving away from the iconic sound signature that is John Williams. What would be the reason? I think I can give 2 reasons. The first reason is they might be strategically preparing for, unfortunately, the passing of John Williams. You know, he's great. We all love him, but you know, he's up there in years, and it might be a decade from now, but we just don't know. He will have, you know, and yeah, there will be, unfortunately, an upcoming passing of this great iconic composer, and we'll never forget him. Let's hope we never forget him. Disney, don't ever forget him, please. I beg you. But maybe it's a strategic thing. Well, okay, Star Wars, the impetus, the musical and sonic impetus, the signature of Star Wars is John Williams, but we're not going to have him around for very much longer. Okay, well, maybe what we should do is start kind of weaning the audience out of his sonic signature and his musical signature, and replace it, just gradually replace it with a different kind of sound. Now, I will say with Kevin Kiner, who composed the Clone Wars, he's done a phenomenal job with the Clone Wars series. That music, apart from a lot of season 7, The Siege of Mandalore, that music sounds like Star Wars. So it's like you've got a younger composer pretty much imitating, in his own way, in his own arrangements and his own style and his own instruments and his instrumentation. You've got a younger composer who, up until the Siege of Mandalore, did not deviate from the iconic Star Wars sound. And so I'm thinking, oh, and he said in an article, I can't remember if it was, I think it was Kiner. I don't think it was Filoni, but I think it was Kiner who said in an article for the Siege of Mandalore that the approach, and of course Filoni approved, the Siege of Mandalore was to have a different sound. And sure enough, he did a beautiful electronic sound, but it just was not Star Wars. If you listen to the music of the Bad Batch, that Bad Batch arc, very, very, very different from. I mean, you have to listen carefully, and I pick up on these things because I'm a professional musician and composer, so I know my music really well. So you have to actually, if you go back to it, like, you know, after I tell you to, you might have to listen very carefully. But it's that first arc, as been my impression, that first Bad Batch arc did sound like the iconic Star Wars. The Siege of Mandalore sounds great, it sounds beautiful, but it sounds like another sci-fi story in another sci-fi universe. That music would have been perfect for another space opera. That could have been for my story. But it just didn't sound like Star Wars. So I think the first thing why they would want to remove that sound, that iconic John Williams sound, is because I think, for, you know, sad to say, but with however many years it is, it will be a transition from what John Williams has done to what other composers hired to do will do for Disney and Lucasfilm and all the developers producing these Star Wars games. That's the first reason. So I think they're strategically planning like a musical transition out of that iconic Star Wars sound. But if this is intentional, if this is planned, I think another reason they're making this move, this artistic move, is they I believe they want to I think it's a cross between 2 different things. They either want to remove and pull away from the original trilogy, which is, of course, the heart of Star Wars, or redo the original trilogy in their own style, music included, or they want to expand their audience even more. Now, I don't get this. You know, the prof and I talk about this quite a bit. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. The sentiments from Disney and Lucasfilm and what you know geek culture is saying on the whole is that Disney and Lucasfilm, they want to expand their Star Wars audience. They want to make their Star Wars audience bigger. This baffles me to no end because Star Wars had already pretty much the biggest audience out there as far as franchises go, and I just don't understand why they would need to expand. They don't need to expand because people love Star Wars, and people who are not interested in Star Wars, they don't have to be interested in Star Wars. You can't appeal to people who are naturally not interested in Star Wars. So just keep the people who like Star Wars and don't bother with people who aren't interested. Yes, it's true. I've been a teacher for about 5 years teaching many different people of all ages, but primarily children. And it's true. I'm only saying this from my experience, so I could be a totally isolated event, but the boys that I taught were much more interested in Star Wars than the girls. In fact, the girls, I would wear my Star Wars shirts, and I more than once a girl would say, "Why are you watching? Why do you have that Star Wars shirt on?" And I'd say, "Well, I love Star Wars." Why? You're a girl. I mean, that's a natural reaction, and people could get so offended about that. And it's like, no, how dare that girl who's 7 and still acquiring different tastes for different things. But that's a natural reaction for girls to have. I've had that more than once, happen to me more than once, which means I'm not saying it's exclusively for boys, but what it does mean is that people, whether boy or girl, there are people out there that do not have a natural interest in Star Wars, and that's okay. That's fine. As a Star Wars fan, loving the iconic Star Wars and the heart of Star Wars, I can say I'm okay. I'm totally cool with people not being a fan of Star Wars. So Disney, you don't need to expand the audience. So I'm wondering if they're trying to pull away from the original trilogy so they can expand their audience that way, and that includes that musical palette. Now, there is a little bit of a cross with that idea. It's kind of a mixture. I feel like this is going in tandem, but I also think I don't imagine they're intentional about this, but maybe they are. I don't know. But what this also looks like to me is the removal of Star Wars completely. What do I mean by that? Well, with this trailer in this game, yeah, it looks like Star Wars, but it doesn't sound like Star Wars. It might not have the spirit of Star Wars. And that makes me wonder if they're trying to make Star Wars look less and less like Star Wars. Now, I can only draw this speculation out of what I'm hearing in the music. But Star Wars music really homes the person into that Star Wars world. So, for instance, and I'm speaking for gamers, like, I'm really enjoying the games that I'm playing. I hope to finish the boss, the big boss, the big baddie in Final Fantasy IV tonight. I don't know. We'll see. I think I will. I already have the soundtrack stuck in my head. This is great. So I'm enjoying the different games that I'm playing currently. Final Fantasy, sometimes Donkey Kong Country. I was playing a little bit of Dragon Spirit on NES last night, and it's hard. It's so hard. And then the prof has just finished for our own enjoyment. Him showing me the whole game of Arkham Origins. It's a great story. It's fun, but think about it, gamers, think about it. You play all these different games from all these different styles, all these different stories, all these different gameplays. I have a very specific interest in a kind of gameplay, like with obstacle courses. the prof has a huge interest in gameplay that involves story, like Batman, Arkham Origins, or Knights of the Old Republic. But to transfer from one game to another, you've got to transport that person into that specific world. After playing Batman, if you want to play Star Wars, you have to feel like you're in Star Wars. And what better way to feel like you're in Star Wars than to upload that awesome trailer / introduction to the Knights of the Old Republic and hear the music while seeing that montage of, fighter pilots in space and blasters and lightsabers and all that. You don't want to feel like you're in Batman or in Batman's world and in Gotham after you've been transported to Star Wars. That's really the fundamental function of music. That's what music ought to do in things like games, or film. So let's say you're watching 3 different television shows. I can't do that. I have to watch one kind of show at a time. But if you like to watch, different shows that are completely different worlds and genres, what's going to help transport you to that specific world is the music. Yes, the look, but also the music. And so all this to say is I wonder if they are not only trying to remove people from the original saga, from the original trilogy, including the prequels and some of the Clone Wars, but I wonder if they're trying to, in trying to expand the audience, I wonder if they're trying to remove the complete feel of Star Wars. That being the heart of Star Wars and what Star Wars not only looks like, but also what Star Wars sounds like. So that's my take too, is like, why is it not sounding like Star Wars? Is there a reason for that? It could be carelessness. It could be oversight. I could be totally wrong in my speculation and say they don't know what they're doing because they think, oh, if I just throw in a cool sounding, cinematic sample from a library that I bought the license to, cool. It's gonna be good enough as a Star Wars game. I don't know. I don't know if it's an oversight. My suspicion is that they are trying to expand the audience while simultaneously removing and deviating from what Star Wars truly looks and sounds like. So I'd like to know your guys' thoughts there. I need to read some more comments. I always say comics by accident when I say comments. So let's see what you guys are saying. Final Fantasy fan says, I never bothered watching the new Star Wars Eclipse, mainly because I really don't care about Star Wars in these recent years. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I kind of kick myself in the foot for watching, giving that viewership to that trailer. But the whole music shift is a big one for me. I think this is a major turning point for Star Wars. I really do think that starting this, I really do believe starting this next year into the next 10 years, there's going to be a gradual eradication of things that look like Star Wars. The only thing that's going to remain in Star Wars is the Force and lightsabers. So anything that's related to the Force and lightsabers is gonna remain. But as far as the look, I mean, I wouldn't even put it past them for changing the look of Star Wars and the look of alien races and the look of good guys and bad guys and the look of the whole world building and mysticism. I mean, it could end up looking like Warhammer 40K. I mean, probably not, but I just the change of music, I think, is the first stone to start the avalanche. I really do. You guys might call me crazy, but I don't know. I think I'm right. All right, let's go ahead and continue down. And then Final Fantasy says, especially when I have a real bone to pick on with the new Star Wars canon's depiction of the Jedi and the Sith. Oh, you know what? I was talking about that with the prof. I don't really know too much about the Sith, but okay, I'm gonna go on a little rant, guys. You know me and my Star Wars rants. Is that okay? um, I think yeah, I don't know what you think about the Jedi and the Sith and their depiction in current canon, but here's what I'm picking up on just commentary on the new shows. And by the way, the commentary I see, I do tend to look just to make sure what's happening because I do want to keep my eye out for this this cultural shift that is Star Wars. Guys, I'm so sorry. I have to talk about Ahsoka Tano again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I think she's the impetus that's really changing the nature of Star Wars. Um, they have made it so imperative. Filoni especially has made it so imperative that she was not in the wrong concerning anything regarding the Jedi. Now, what does that mean? Really specifically, I haven't seen the Clone Wars Rebel. No, that's not true. I've seen the Clone Wars. I haven't seen Rebels, so I don't know all the context. But based on just things I've seen floating around on the internet regarding the Mandalorian, her appearance in the Mandalorian, Luke's appearance in the Mandalorian, the upcoming show with the Ahsoka series or Ahsoka Tano, the upcoming show with Ahsoka Tano and Sabine Wren or whatever. They really they're trying to she's become this really like wise sage. Like I left the Jedi Order. I'm no Jedi, which is fine. That's totally fine for her story. But what this is actually causing, I've seen this float around. Oh, I've heard it with different channels that I have listened to that I have listened to less frequently as of late, and that is, she really is the true Jedi, like kind of like Obi-Wan, not Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon Jinn. It's been speculated in recent years that Qui-Gon Jinn really was as true essence as his true essence is in being in tune with the Force and his being able to communicate after death, that he was the true Jedi. And I think there's room to explore that. But he had to die, and so Obi-Wan had to train Anakin, and maybe Anakin's fate would have been different if Qui-Gon had been his teacher. I think that would have been true, honestly. If Qui-Gon was to train Anakin Skywalker, I think that would have been different, but then we wouldn't have this awesome story with Luke Skywalker. And that's just how the world works, and that's just how fate works, when things happen and things are turned around. So with Ahsoka, I think what they're trying to do, what they probably could have done with a character like Qui-Gon Jinn, is they're trying to make her this wise, important figure who's renounced the Jedi Order and become this all-powerful, all-wise Force user who still wields lightsabers. Now, that by itself, is that a problem? No. But what I do believe is a problem is in telling this story in this way, if this comes to fruition, what they're going to do is really downplay the goodness of the Jedi. Because they fell, oh, well, that means the Jedi were corrupt the whole time. No, they were just short-sighted. You can be a very good person and pursue good things and goodness and be short-sighted on something. You can have your vision clouded. You can misjudge. You can have a completely different supposition of the way things are, and that could be your undoing, but you could still be pursuing the good while you're in that misinformation. The idea that the Jedi were corrupt and that's why they fell, that's not a good thing. Yes, they were deceived, but they weren't wicked. They weren't corrupt. I'm not saying all of them were not corrupt, but by and large, they were still keepers of the peace. They fell short, maybe adhering to a Jedi code that wasn't there. And that's Luke's role. That's Luke Skywalker's role in setting up the new Jedi Order. But with with something like Ahsoka Tano, as you know, Final Fantasy is saying, I can't stand the depiction of the Jedi and the Sith. This might be totally different from what I'm gathering, but the Jedi, I feel, is becoming more and more like not the enemies, not the villains of this story, but they're painted with a different color now, and not a good color. They're not virtuous. They're not being seen by fans as virtuous, and I think Ahsoka Tano's role in that is only going to amplify that. That's my prediction. Like, oh, the Jedi fell because they're corrupt, but she left the Jedi before, and I mean, I still like that story in season 5 of the Clone Wars. Um, but no, they were still good people. Obi-Wan was still good. Yoda was still good. They were still virtuous warriors that just were short-sighted and were deceived until it was too late. All right. Oh, thank you, Go Team Ghost Planet. Go. I hope you and the professor have a happy new year. We shall. In fact, I think tonight we'll. I think he has an extra patch from the Arkham Origins where it is set the following week after Christmas. So we'll get into that part of the game. And actually, I'd like to finish Final Fantasy IV, and then I might get right into Final Fantasy VI. But I might play a short game or two. Dragon Spirit, man, I've seen walkthroughs of that game. I saw my cousin play it when I was a kid. He just tore through that game. It's like, oh, this is so easy. I was like, this is really, really hard. It's a very hard game. I have to practice. Muhammad says, I think it just needs the bombast and romanticism. Sometimes a lot of music I hear is now just action music. That's it. Okay, yeah. And I'm going to actually talk about that in detail on streams and commentary videos in the future into this next year. But yeah, I like that you say action music and that's all that it sounds like. That's a very, very specific composition approach and sound. Action music has a couple of key items. Maybe I would say 3. The first is percussion. The second is a very specific chord progression. And then the third is momentum. You do not stop the music. You don't have points of silence. You don't have a break. You just have this perpetual motion. I'm not against that kind of music at all, by the way. But it just sounds too much. Just a side note, I'm enjoying watching a couple episodes a week of Thundercats with the prof. I will say I love the theme music. The battle music, now we're in season 1, so the music might change. The battle music is very chaotic and disorderly. And that might have just been the composition. Maybe the composer was Japanese, I'm not sure. But it sounds very much like Stravinsky or Prokofiev. It just sounds very out of order. It just doesn't, to me, I love the cartoon, but the music is highly distracting because it's hard to describe. I'll do a separate video on Thundercats music. Again, this is season 1. We're just starting the show, so it might have changed over the course of the seasons. Elijah Brown is with us. I find that oh gosh, can I like is that the sound? I'm female, so I can't go so low. I find that sound agonizing. It's just it's not a bad sound on itself on its own, but it's used everywhere, and that's a problem. That is a problem. Muhammad says, I like the end section where we see the eclipse as the title comes up, but like if that's just what Star Wars becomes forever, it's really frustrating. That that's what I've been kind of saying in the last 25-30 minutes, is that I think that's where it's going. I think that, guys, honestly, the original trilogy was so endearing. It is campy. It is pretty campy. Before I even got into Star Wars, I remember seeing a clip of it. I remember seeing a clip of the chase in the asteroid belt or the asteroid field. it was an astronomy teacher I had, a professor, and he's like, "I'm gonna show you what space is not like," and then he showed us Star Wars, and I had no, actually, I was watching Star Wars by then, and I love Star Wars, but when I was in a public setting, like, this was, gosh, goodness, this was like 2007, so the climate was a little bit different. I felt like a geek in a college classroom. I mean, it was obvious that a lot of people liked Star Wars in that classroom, but the watching that scene with a bunch of college-aged people and a professor who didn't like the unrealistic depiction of an asteroid field, uh, it felt weird. I felt out of place. It felt really, like I felt like a geek, not ostracized, but I did feel out of place in that kind of setting because Star Wars is, I love it so much, but it's very campy. It's in a lovable way. I will say it is a little cartoonish, and now that's just from the acting of that time, and or I won't say the acting of that time as much as people were really trying to be inventive with world building. And so different things in the way of acting and dialogue and all of that comes across just a little off. Now, would I change that? Absolutely not. I think it's really important that is still the original trilogy, but I kind of wonder if it's, you know, if uh if they're trying to pull away from that campiness and maybe they're trying to make Star Wars edgy. Like out of everything in the whole wide world, they did it to DC. And I don't know DC like a lot of you guys know DC, and like the prof knows DC, but like DC doesn't have to be what Frank Miller did to Batman or what Snyder does to the movies. And that certainly does not have to happen in Star Wars. Like you could have a lot of dark themes. For instance, the destruction of a planet is very, very dark, but it doesn't have to be edgy with nihilism. And I don't think they'll go so far as being nihilistic with Star Wars. I mean, we had The Last Jedi, but which was a filmmaker's a film student's social experiment on us all. I wouldn't say they will go down that way and be just so nihilistic and dystopian. I'm not going to say that that's what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to be. I don't think they would go as far as being a dystopia kind of world. It's kind of amazing. Like you didn't have to have a dystopia kind of world with a domineering, overbearing empire. I think that's cool. I think that was a really cool take on that kind of world. But I don't suppose the endearing thing, that endearing charm, that campy charm of Star Wars is going to last. I think they're going to remove away from that, and I think that's indicative of the music and how this has to be dark action music. I'm like, man, it does not need to be dark action music, but that's I think that's where they're going. I should check if my audio is fine again. Like I'm way behind comics or comments. Comments, I say. Comments. Looks good so far. No audio glitches. That's good. That's the most important thing to me. I'll keep reading. I'll try to probably wrap it up in the next half hour or so. All right. Let's see who is next. I lost my way, guys. Oh yeah, I just finished Muhammad's comment. Yeah, if it's not winging it, Wolf10, it would be just throwing something in there and calling it Star Wars, or cool at least. It's like, oh, well, this sounds cool, therefore I'm going to put it on my trailer. Dr. Y says, the sad thing that this has been, the sad thing is, let me see if I can read this correctly. The sad thing is that this has been the only High Republic era product that looks remotely interesting, but that ain't saying much about the High Republic stuff. Yeah, I forgot about that. Is that so? Is that a High Republic era um, game setting. Um, I there you go, guys. There, if you guys, I said this before. If you guys look on the Star Wars YouTube page, it's pretty much littered with High Republic stuff. People say, "Oh, fans hate High Republic." I'm like, well, you know what? They are marketing more than. I mean, I'm going to say this on the Twitter account, and probably on the YouTube account, but I'd have to check. But definitely on the Twitter account, they are marketing the High Republic stuff as much as all the geeky stuff that all the geeks like, all the fandom menace people like. They're like, no, we hate High Republic. We're here for the Ahsoka series. We're here for Boba Fett. And it's like, guys, they are marketing it like as much or not more. It's not going away. And I didn't know that the Eclipse was in that setting. So again, further proof of what they're planning to do. Dr. Y says, Jedi Fallen Order had that Mongolian band perform a song for it. I didn't hear that in the trailer. Maybe it was. Like a band or an actual choral group or tribal group. Interesting. I don't remember hearing that in the trailer. Yeah, I agree, Wolf 10. The LucasArts games actually try to capture that Williams feel, and that makes sense because when I was watching those trailers, it had that LucasArts logo, and of course we don't have that anymore. Yeah, does LucasArts is it still existing? Just under new management or something, or is it completely gone? I couldn't remember. Muhammad says, I think the hurdle is when creating universe with so many cultures and creatures becomes hard. You're trying to have it's hard when you're trying to have a specific look, but remembering cultures have to be well alien as well. Yeah, that's true. Now, interesting to say is like, there are aliens on that trailer that are totally recognizable from the prequels, from Rogue One, from all of that, but that makes it all the more disorienting when the music doesn't sound right. I don't know. I mean, yeah, make Star Wars expansive, make it big. It has to feel like a big galaxy, but yeah, you don't have to. I would say you'd have to have like hallmarks, like, okay, this is this planet, this is this sector, this is this alien, and then you work with it. I wouldn't really, even with aliens and world building, I wouldn't deviate from what we already have. And then there are all these like encyclopedias and anthologies and all sorts of references like that you could buy or that you can acquire, maybe something off the internet where it's like, oh, this is this alien, like that's what we were seeing with the prof's book study with his different Star Wars EU studies, is like if there was an alien, he'd be sure to either describe it during his stream or actually put up a picture and put up concept art. And I think that's important, and I think that's fine. I would say you could still have a good focus, a singular focus on the heart of Star Wars and the storytelling, even with so many races and cultures and worlds. Brian Gilmartin says, something else that bugs me about modern media soundtracks is the loudness. I noticed this when I went to see the Dune film earlier this year. It left me feeling exhausted. Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting. I will tell you guys, it was either The Force Awakens. Actually, no, it was probably The Last Jedi. That was the last film that I saw in theater. Unless what's that film? Oh, The Arrival with Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner. Unless that came before or after, unless that came after those two Star Wars movies. I have not been in the theater. I really forgot what the general loudness is. The thing with I will say this as far as like sound design, or just as a person who understands a little bit the basics of sound, if you have the traditional 5.1 surround sound system, I think that's the system. I know that's the system for home theaters. I think it's the same system for cinematic theaters as well, if it's not 7.2. I can't remember. I don't know what the standard is. Maybe it's 10.2. So I think it's either 7.1 or 10.2. That's even more, but that's no. That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right at all. So I'm just gonna guess that it is the 5.1 surround sound system. So what is that? That's pretty much a quadraphonic system where you have the speakers in front of you and behind you, and then you have the subwoofer, the bass ground energy. If that is appropriated and distributed in an even way, in oh, if I don't know how to describe it besides if that is distributed in a very nice way, you don't need loudness, because if you've got the ground energy just right, it will be fine on its own. If you've got the amplitude for the ground energy in that subwoofer just fine, it will be fine on its own. I absolutely cannot stand it when the floor energy or the ground energy is ramped up at a crazy decibel level. It's like, we gotta have this low end and feel the impact, man. That was like every college student experimenting with electronic music. So we gotta have a little. They hated treble energy. They hated high frequencies. I had one friend who loved high frequencies in college, but everyone was like, "Oh, gotta get that subwoofer. Oh, that sounds so meaty. And it sounds so awesome." And I'm not kidding. If that ground energy is too much, the human body will be exhausted, because that if the subwoofer is directed at you in a certain way, like if you're standing even from a distance from it, you're gonna feel it in your feet if you're standing, and even if you're sitting, you're gonna feel it in your seat if the chair is because it's gonna receive the vibrations of the subwoofer. But then you're also even worse. Even if you're young with a healthy heart, it's gonna get you at the heart. Your organs and your vitals will feel that ground energy. So it makes total sense, Brian, that you would feel exhausted if the decibel level is too loud, because that ground energy pretty much should kind of like warp your system if you're not careful. And I do not care for that at all with the loudness in theaters. um I don't know why. It's like, oh, it's a big screen, so it needs to be a big sound. I'm like, have a big sound, but man, have it distributed in a different and better way. Ah, Wolf 10's out. Bye, Wolf 10. I will see you later. Thanks for coming. I know it's like 45 minutes since you've been gone, but yeah. All right. Brian Gilmartin has all these recommendations. Mega Man, Final Fantasy, Dynasty Warriors, Sonic, Streets of Rage, Ninja, Gaiden, Metroid, all of these games and more have very distinct soundtracks that gives them their personality. Yeah, absolutely. Sonic is going to feel very, very different from Metroid. And it should. It absolutely should. Hamid says, it's like having Danny Elfman's Spider-Man score in Star Wars. Great score, but Star Wars, sure, some ideas can be cool to transfer, but come on. Yeah. Like the original Raimi Spider-Man's, yeah, Elfman has a unique sound. You know, as good as he is different from John Williams. John Williams has his signature, Elfman has his signature, and they sound different. And I'm hearing that famous motif with Peter Parker when he's accepting responsibility for his powers. I guess that could work with Star Wars, like Obi-Wan looking into the sunset and understanding what he has to do to protect Luke, maybe. But it is a different feel, even with that. It's a different feel. Lord of the Rings has a very, very specific sound. It can't sound like Marvel. Marvel can't sound like Lord of the Rings, you know? Thanks, guys, for sticking around with my avatar on there. I think I'm doing all right, all things considered. I just hope my audio's good. My microphone's a little far away from me, so it might be boomy. We'll see. All right, who is next? Final Fantasy fan 12 says, I watched a video on new comic book superhero movies and the video does go over the biggest flaw in superhero films. Ooh, do tell. Muhammad says, Marvel is the worst at making music stick. There's like several themes for one character. Yeah, so that's your impression, huh? Yes. I would say, so that's your impression, and I would say I can get why you say that. I would say I haven't seen all the Marvel films yet, so I haven't heard all the different themes. But what I would say is the characters' themes could sound just as well for another character. So no, I'm gonna be careful when I say that, because Thor's theme does sound like Thor. Iron Man's theme, well, he doesn't really have a theme until the third film. But his like AC/DC kind of diegetic music, that's specifically Iron Man. Captain America does sound distinctly Captain America, except it's not complete. It's not a complete theme. It's kind of sad. It's great sounding start to a theme, but and it's very distinctly Captain America, but Marvel can sound musically washed out if the composer doesn't have a complete theme. It's a furry old dog. Welcome. Thank you. Brian Gilmartin says, blame the corporate environment. These suits always want everything to look and sound the same as something else that's popular at the moment. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the travesty of something like the Snyder films being so successful. It's like, oh, then we should make everything look like the Snyder films. I understand from listening to people like Shad from Shadiversity, I understand that I know nothing about Game of Thrones or Wheel of Time. But what I'm hearing from these people is that Wheel of Time has tried to look and be as degenerate as Game of Thrones, like as far as edge and nudity and vice and all that, and also dark and nihilistic and all of that. And I because Game of Thrones up until a certain point was widely successful. It was so uber successful. I never watched it. I'm not into that stuff, but they would say, "Oh no, okay, so this is fantasy too. This is kind of that medieval look." Or yeah, I think it's medieval. I don't think Wheel of Time is Renaissance, but I don't know. So medieval, therefore Game of Thrones, and it's like that's just because Game of Thrones is successful financially and has an audience doesn't mean you should do the same thing just because it's the same setting. Doesn't make sense. Final Fantasy says, I think what the problem is with that is adults begin to grow cynical of reality for a multitude of reasons. In turn, today heroes are directional heroes. Let me say that again. In turn, today's heroes are directionless, tone deaf, filthy, dark, and childish. I was actually talking about this is really important. I was talking about this with the professor. We had seen a couple episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and there was a really emotional scene at the end of the first episode that we saw, and it was so emotional and it was so impactful. And I teared up. I had a napkin after having dinner, and I was like, oh, this is what this napkin is for too. And I dabbed my eyes because I was so it was a really, really moving scene. And then later that night, we I was just kind of thinking, and I was talking to him. I said, that a scene like that, I don't know is invested in anymore. Meaning, I don't think you were saying, heroes are directionless or anti-heroes rather, or they're tone deaf or they're nihilistic or whatever. I don't think popular entertainment today has that emotional weight in certain scenes with certain characters. I don't think people are who consume entertainment like to be emotionally invested because when you're hurt by something happening to a character or a group of people, it's like, oh, why did that have to happen? Well, oh no, and I actually think, guys, honestly, one, we have a very short attention span with these younger generations, but I would say with any generation now, with this information age, especially with social media and TikTok. So I don't think we have the attention span to have that really deep introspection and to be able to mourn or cry for something happening in a dramatization of something. I think drama really has ceased to become drama. Um, I think it's just, oh no, we just need the next thing that's going to engage us or entertain us or make us laugh and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with any of that, but I do believe our culture has been sedated with very short term memory activities. Meaning, okay, I don't want to be so invested in these characters because I just want to move on to the next thing. And I think we're really missing that with entertainment now. I think people hate being vulnerable. I think people hate feeling the vulnerability of being emotional for a set of characters. They don't, I think, I'm not saying everyone, but I would say, I'll just make this assumption. I think people are afraid to be emotional and have a deep connection to a piece of art or a story. And if you had that as a general thing, if people just don't have the introspection or the attention span, then we really do have a problem as a culture. I'm not saying don't be like a mopey poet, that stereotypical mopey poet, but it's like, don't also be afraid to be emotional and invest in a certain thing. It's like, oh, let's kill off these characters. We didn't care about them anyway. It's like, no, you're not supposed to have characters like that in a story. You're supposed to have characters you like. And people will like one character more than another character, or they'll like one character more than another person will like that same character. But I think people are just, they've lost the ability to have a very deep, emphatic and not emphatic, empathetic. That's what I meant to say. They're having I think people are having a very hard time with introspection and empathy. Go Team Ghost Palanco says, the original EU is the real sequel trilogy. Brian Gilmartin says, it's not expanding the audience. It's trying to trade one demographic for another. Like we've seen in comics. That can be true too. Yeah, I would say that is definitely happening as well. But it's like, well, honestly, I'm gonna say this. I think it's just more, hey, we've got a large audience. Let's promote this propaganda. To be honest, I don't think they are, even if they're catering to a very specific demographic as far as ideology and politics. I don't think their aim is to shrink the audience. I think they just want a wide enough platform where they can just, spew out what they want. Yeah, Final Fantasy fan says, today's heroes are way too dark or way too silly. Not to their attitude, but not only to their attitude, but down to their costumes. Yeah, it's like let's be cheeky, let's be silly, let's eat food all the time. It's like, no, you have to have. It's very cathartic. It's very cathartic to have a very emotional investment to certain characters. And then when you revisit those characters, like in a television show, it's like, no, that's good. It's good to process. All right. Oh, it's close to 11. Let me keep going. Keep going down with these comments. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. That wasn't to me. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. My prof said something. Filoni is turning the Jedi. As the incompetent patriarchy. The fans are just in denial. I would say so. Yeah, it's really weird that they're really transferring power to Filoni, saying, "Oh, well, if he says this, then this is good because we trust him because he's our beacon. He's our beacon of hope, guys. Jon Favreau is our beacon of hope. They're never going to change. Not after what Jon Favreau did with Marvel. There's no way it's going to be bad." It's like, maybe, but I don't know. Yeah, that is correct, Final Fantasy. Superheroes are supposed to be better than us, not because they're powerful to the point of being superior. They give us something to aspire to. Exactly right. Exactly as that's the role of the hero in the American monomyth, as my prof always points out. All right. Yeah, gotta cruise through these. I'll probably just address the ones tagged. Ugh, got some spam comments looking. Gotta put them on timeout. Hopefully that means I'm getting more traction. Anything that looks like spam, guys, I might just block. Not any of you guys, but anything that looks really sus, I just go ahead and block. I'm not afraid of doing that. Where am I? Where was I? Brian Gilmartin says, Final Fantasy VI proved that you can have dark themes like the destruction of the world still giving people a mote of light. Well, it's not just that, but it's like, I mean, it's not camp. Well, there are some campy moments, like in Star Wars, but yeah, there are some cute moments, and for what people could do it in that kind of game setting back then with dialogue and characterization and stuff like that. Oh, there's a sound engraver one. Fallen Order had a Mongolian metal throat. Oh, singing, yeah, okay, the Who. They're pretty awesome to listen to, even though they sing in Mongolian. I think that sounds a little more familiar now that you said that. Oh, sweet. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. My prof, I had bots, yes. Yeah, cool. That's pretty cool. Be gone, bots. That's right. No bots here. That's good. Well, thanks guys for doing that. So I think I guess I'll just leave it as Sound Engraver Star Wars with R2D2. This is my Twitter avatar as well. So I think that's it. I can't. Oh, do we have more? No. Okay. No, we're good. We're all good. We're good with comments. So yeah, I would just say looking into this next week. I don't know what I'm going to talk about for next week's stream, but something music related. But anyway, yeah, this week. So it really does depend on what I'm going to post into post for Thursday rather. It could be SuperCollider. It might be original music that I've been working on over the course of the last 4 weeks or so. SuperCollider, I'll post something on SuperCollider if I find something interesting as far as sound is concerned. But I've been experimenting with FM. I've been experimenting with frequency modulation, and I'm not coming up with anything interesting. It's new to be sure, but it's not anything interesting. So if I can't find anything remotely interesting, I'll probably just post a video on original music that I've been working on. But I hope you guys have a wonderful week before the new year. So I won't see you until the new year or after a couple days after the new year. So, well, unless I'm in chat, unless there's things happening in the chat. So anyway, I think that's it. Yeah, look out for a sound experimentation or original music video this Thursday or Friday. And thanks guys for hanging out. Love talking about Star Wars. It might happen again. I don't know. But anyway, until I see you next, we got goodbyes. Yeah, until I see you next, keep producing, preserving, and promoting the art you love. Let me say that again. Producing, preserving, and promoting the art you love. I will catch you later. Thanks, guys. Thanks for a great, engaging stream.